Silver bells, silver bells, soon it will be Christmas Day. Hello, everyone. And you know what? I don't care if that woman killed her husband. It's Christmas. I don't care. I don't care. It's Christmas. And I'm forgiving everyone. By the way, kudos to her strength. I've never seen a human being bounce back like this. Talk about a bounce back. I've never in my life. I know people that have lost cats and dogs who couldn't do this in the time frame that she has done it. I give her flowers. I cannot describe to you how if you were a normal human being, this gives you pause. Your spidey senses go off. You feel odd. If you're a normal human being, you look at this and you go 90 days after this guy tragically gets assassinated. This has become a very, very grotesque display of the quest for raw power led by his widow. It's like odd. To a lot of people, it's odd. My aunt and uncle were killed in a plane crash. He was a hobbyist pilot, and they were killed in a plane crash. And the photo of that burning jet I gave to my little cousin in an aura frame. And even though it seems like it's insensitive, she loves it because it reminds her of her parents. Get the frame. I was at this party and I was like, Harvey, I keep saying Rob Reiner, but instead I'm saying Harvey Weinstein. At the party, we found out that Rob Reiner was killed by his son, a tragic event. We've all wanted to kill our parents. We don't do it. You don't do it, okay? It's the holidays. He was at Conan O'Brien's party having an argument with his parents the night before. When you hear that, you realize Conan O'Brien at a party you weren't invited to. That's what I realized. And I thought about that. And people said it's horrible that that man lost his life. And I said, where was that party? And they said, it was horrible. He stabbed his mother and his father. And I said, is it in the Palisades house? Because he still has that house that didn't burn down. And they went, well, the kid had been schizophrenic his whole life. He's been in and out of rehab. And it was like a really big, and I go, who gets to go to that? Is it like people he handpicks or? That's what's important. Do you know how much better this episode would have been if I was at the Conan O'Brien Christmas party? Had I been a witness to that? But I was not invited. I was not invited because there's an idea in this town that I'm not a team player. Simply because I have trashed people publicly and privately and the directors of huge film franchises and agents and managers and business managers and my colleagues, other actors, politicians, members of the judiciary, my family, personal friends. Because of that, I am blacklisted from events that I would be fucking great at. And can I say something now? Because I have this platform and it's all I have because I've been robbed of everything else. They've taken everything else from me. And I'm not throwing shade at anyone at that party. I'm certainly not throwing shade at Conan. I'm not throwing shade at any of these people. I think Bill Hader is a genius. I love Barry. Can I say one thing? Am I allowed on my own platform to say one thing? Had I been at that party and had I spoken to Nick Reiner, Rob Reiner's alive. He is. No, he is. No, he is. So I'm not trying to guilt anyone. I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. But if I was at the Conan party, not even invited, if I was at the Conan party and I could have grabbed Nick Reiner and took him outside and given him a Marlboro Light and chatted with him, he was probably a fan of this show or other shows I've done. Nick Reiner, medication for schizophrenia. Yeah, definitely watches this show. Definitely a podcast fan. I would have been able to convince him with my charm, with my wit, with my personality. I'm quick on my feet. I would have been able to say, hey, don't do this. Hey, don't do it. The people that don't invite me have blood on their hands. Okay, and I don't mean to say, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm actually not. It sounds like I am. If you have not invited me to a party in LA and a schizophrenic, my mother's a schizophrenic, I actually know how to handle them. I know how to handle them. First of all, the first thing you say to a schizophrenic is, you're right. You don't argue with them. When I read they were arguing with this schizo at Conan's fucking house, which I believe is actually beautiful. I wouldn't know. They're arguing with this schizo. You don't fight with a schizo. When my mother said something, I went, you're right, hon. Lock her up. And it didn't have to happen. Had I been there, it wouldn't have happened. I mean, I don't know what to say. I know people don't want to hear that. They're going to be upset. This is going to be another thing. I won't get invited to another thing. Did you hear what he said? He said he would have saved our brother. Well, I would have. I know how to deal with schizophrenics, especially in a mansion. My mother was living in a bungalow, and we dealt with her. I would know how to deal with a schizophrenic in a mansion. That's actually what I'm designed for. Can you imagine me and a schizophrenic in a large kitchen? It would work.
I am really, it's hard to even find words to say, sorry for this shocking.
By the way, can you stop that? This is a pet peeve of mine. What do you mean it's hard to find words? You work at CNN. Your literal only job is to find words. No one is asking you to do anything else except find words. Just find the words. Say, I'm sorry for your loss. That's what you say. Here they are. I'm sorry for your loss. Those are the words. And why was Tim Dillon not in the party to diffuse the situation? And then that guy would go, who the hell is that? And then she would go, you're part of the problem. This is a tragic thing. Titan of comedy, horrible, not good. I should have been at the party. I would have been able to help. Again, I don't want to make it about me. Not about me. I was at another lesser event in Silver Lake. God help me. The Epstein files, they said they were going to come out. This is why the files are not coming out. They're not. It's not because Trump is protecting billionaire friends that he's never cared about. He's not falling on the sword for his friends. That's not the Trump we know and love. The Trump we know and love is throwing people in front of a car so that he doesn't get hit. When people call me a nihilistic sociopath like they do all the time in the press, I'm simply telling people what it is, and no one wants to hear it. So they get all angry. This idea that Donald Trump is falling on a sword for other billionaires, he doesn't want them to be seen in a bad light, doesn't make any sense. Let's throw that explanation out, okay? Explanation number 2, the Kash Patel explanation. There's nothing there. There's thousands of pages of documents that have been redacted by the CIA and the FBI, but none of them say anything because nothing even happened. There's 15 pictures out right now of Bill Clinton, Michael Jackson, and this guy windsurfing or whatever. And apparently this guy, nothing was ever happening or going on because this was just like a weird rich guy. By the way, it's funny, you see these photos. This is the only time you've ever seen any of these people having fun. So that was explanation number 2. Explanation number 3, which I find more plausible, because I have gotten rid of explanation 1 and 2. And to review, explanation 1, Donald Trump feels really bad for like other people and wants to protect their image. That bums him out. So he's going to fall on the sword, take the heat for other people in an act of selflessness because other people might be inconvenienced by this, to say the least. Explanation number 2, none of this ever happened. None of these people ever did anything wrong. There was no trafficking ring. There were no accomplices. Nothing even happened. Now, that was explanation 2 given to you by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. That was their response. Remember, that was option 2 given to you by who? Your aunt? No. The Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, option 3, a reason that many people don't think it's coming out, is because Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intelligence agencies in Israel, America. Maybe he was working with the Brits, maybe the French. He got around. And what he was doing was he was a conduit between powerful people, people that were current government officials, former government officials, corporate leaders, whatever. The jet set, as they call them. Option 3 would require a pretty big public fallout when and if that information became public, that our own government or an allied government was blackmailing people. And when I say our government, I mean factions. I don't mean everybody. I don't mean your aunt who's the comptroller in New Jersey. I mean deeply powerful factions of our intelligence community blackmailing congressmen, senators, presidents, prime ministers, okay? So that seems to be option 3 of why it hasn't come out. Like, for example, you don't really have to know much about anything to know right now that it seems very likely, and I've talked to smart people who believe that there's kind of a civil war within our intelligence community. One faction of our, and by the way, there's multiple factions in the intelligence community. It's not like one and then another and then that's it. One of the divides is between a group of people in the intelligence community who believe we should get out of the Middle East. We should not support Israel in attacking Iran. We should divest from Russia and Ukraine. And we should prepare to fight China. We need to position ourselves for a potentially inevitable conflict on some level with China. And that getting bogged down with Russia or the Middle East, these kind of endless foreign wars, regime change wars, that's a faction, okay? That's clearly not the only faction. There's another faction that wants more interventions, that believes that the power vacuum in the Middle East gets filled by China and Russia. And that faction of people is more aligned with neoconservative people in those departments. And they want Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio. And the Colby faction wants J.D. Vance. These are different factions that are fighting for control of whatever comes after Trump. And this is kind of it's a conflict that smart people know about. And I'm not saying if you don't know about it, you're not smart. I'm just saying whatever. You're not reading. You have a life, right? So you're like have a family and a job. So you're not reading all this crap that I read and you're talking to these crazy people. It's all I do all day is talk to crazy people. They're interesting to a degree, but they're insane. You know, they have very interesting positions all over media and government or whatever, and they're interesting and they're not. But these are the factions that are lining up. And it's all about control of money and control of power and who gets their friends in. You're eating French fries at the beach and you want to take a quick dip in the ocean. You put a Seagull on watch. That's not security. It's catering for the Seagull. I've read that so many times. I have no idea what that means. There's a reason you wouldn't trust a Seagull with your fries, just like there's a reason you wouldn't trust insurance companies with your case. Oh, I get it now. We had a very weird shooting at MIT, a weird shooting at Brown, horrible shooting at Brown, horrible that anyone loses their life ever. I don't know why nothing seems to make sense anymore. And I don't want to sound like a nut, and I'm not saying and alleging that everything's a lie all the time, but it is just odd that crimes used to have motives. You know, when I grew up, crimes had motives. Somebody would do something and there would be a tangible reason as to why that person did it. And the news media would doggedly try to find out why the person did the crime. And now that's kind of less of a thing. Now it's like Clue. It's like a weird thing of Clue where they're like, he killed someone in the meat locker with the hair dryer. And you go, okay, well, he shot somebody in the frozen foods aisle with the bazooka. And you go, oh, okay, but why? Well, we don't know. Right. Well, he had a samurai sword and he was in the phone booth and he cut the guy's head off. But nobody really knows why. A Reddit post from a homeless man at Brown University helped investigators find the mass shooter. Well, thank God. By the way, this is Kash Patel's FBI. It is now come down to a Reddit post from a homeless person. So if you're killed in this country, you better hope that a vagrant tweets about it so that Kash Patel can find out. Hope they tweet at FBI director, at Kash, I just killed someone. Why is Truth Social owner Trump Media merging with a fusion energy firm? So on a day after this guy gets whacked, Trump Media and Technology Group, owner of Donald Trump's Truth Social media platform, announced a merger on Wednesday with a company developing fusion energy technology. Interesting. Fun. And this guy who was a fusion scientist gets whacked the day before. Again, I'm not saying there's anything there. It's just fun to note. So Kash Patel and the FBI are now relying on the homeless to solve the crimes. No. Folks, they're relying on the homeless. The reason the Epstein list isn't out is because the homeless haven't gotten involved. Kash Patel didn't realize that there was a human trafficking ring that Epstein was running because a homeless guy hadn't posted about it on Reddit. The Federal Bureau of Investigation is now depending on the homeless. Dan Bongino just left the FBI to come back to podcasting. Welcome back, brother. Who predicted that a year ago? The guy that didn't get invited to Conan's party. That guy. We can make change here. It's not like the fucking feds. If you literally were to just tell somebody the actual facts of this, you would sound like a conspiracy theorist without mentioning any conspiracies, by the way. If you just said there was a guy, he was a nuclear fusion scientist, MIT, crawling with spies, shot in his house. Then at Brown University, this girl got shot and then some other guy. Now, they found the guy who did it because a homeless guy posted on Reddit, and then the FBI director decided to take a break from his girlfriend's tour schedule to try to arrest a guy who actually was another weird guy who knew this guy he shot. I think they knew each other. And he ended up killing himself in his storage facility in New Hampshire. If you were to just say that, you would sound like you were trying to say something else. This sounds like a musical. This sounds like a fucking weird musical. These two Portuguese nuclear scientists. What the fuck's going on? What the fuck is going on? I grew up in a country where Americans used to kill each other over things like this. But everything now is mask off. We're at the end of whatever this thing has been. Whatever you want to call it. Democracy, oligarchy, an attempt at representative government, it is mask off. And all of the factions that I'm talking about are fighting for a peace and essentially the peace. And that includes the teal tech people, what exactly he thinks their role is in a government. They want an AI government. That's obvious. They want to get rid of people in all kinds of positions of power. They don't really believe in the government. That's a faction. The permanent war machine. That's a faction. The global open borders, free trade, protect trade routes, and, ports that are very aligned with the permanent war people. That's a faction. The closed border, paleo-conservative, get ready to fight China, get out of the Middle East, anti-Israel. That's a faction. The pro-Israel people are a faction. All of these people are factions. And what they are fighting for is the last bit of meat on the carcass of this empire. Nobody is pretending anymore that it is anything other than that. People know that in the next however many years, it is going to get pretty bad. The AI, the climate, all of these things. And they need to figure out how they're going to ride all of that out and get to the next thing. Whatever the next thing is. My cousin Franky Felix, that's his name. He was like, I'm going to live forever. Well, guess what happened to Franky Felix? Guess what happened to him, okay? He was at a carnival with his children. He wanted to take them to a local carnival. Oh, it's all fun and games, is it? Franky Felix and his children. Well, he took them to a carnival, and he was standing too close to we used to call it the salt and pepper shaker. It would go up and down. It was a ride. And he was decapitated in front of his children, okay? His head was not clear off his body in front of his children. His head was on the ground. It landed head up like Final Destination with an expression on it. He was like, "Rawr." Now, these children were traumatized by that until they found out that Ethos was an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy. And Miriam Adelson pledges $250 million for a third Trump term at a White House Hanukkah party. Well, finally, some good holiday cheer. Let's take a look. Miriam Adelson, friend of the show. They've pulled off something amazing when you think about it. Sure, we all suffer for it, and it hastens the destruction of our country, and it hollows us out financially and culturally, socially, many other ways. And it'll come back to bite us when the refugees from the countries that they destabilize come back here and start randomly attacking us. But whatever. For a minute, let's think about a great friendship. And if it's going to end, and if our country is going to be completely ruined, Shouldn't it be for friendship? It's the most American thing that you can do. Become a billionaire with money that people have given you because of crippling gambling addictions. Use that money to win an election. At that point, you start sucking money out of the treasury after you've genocided a bunch of people in the Middle East. Then build, get this, more casinos on their graves. Folks, that right there is the Christmas story. That's what makes it super special. R.I.P. Rob Reiner, horrible end, very sad thing. But he knew joy, he knew success, he had a great life. And he was invited to Conan's fucking party. Good night.